Greetings, friends. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with a new episode of 50 Years in the Dungeon. Show that I do every week to help celebrate just the art and hobby of tabletop games. Yeah, tabletop games. I usually throw a role playing in there, but I'm trying to spread out. Most of it's tabletop role playing games. In case you don't know, showing up for the first time, I am a career tabletop role playing game industry person. Been an editor, been a writer, been a designer. Now I'm mostly doing cartooning because that is my one true love in my heart. So, in order to celebrate this wonderful hobby and career for me, I've in this show interviewed a lot of people who've also worked in the field. And while we talk, I begin drawing cartoon homages to classic pieces of gaming art. Of course, I can't finish those while we're talking, so I will sometimes have these follow up shows like this one where I do a work in progress. I take a piece that I began during an earlier episode and I work on it for a while. I try and bring it a little further along, get it ready to share with everyone, chat with you all. Hello, Lala. Hello, David Schwartz. Glad you could be here and say hi and join in. Good morning to the Philippines. It's evening here in the Seattle area, but I know morning out there in Philippines, out in the Pacific. Um, Hope you're doing well, Lala. Always glad to see you. So last night I did a test show, which those of you going to look for it on my channel won't find it because it I was testing out some problems. Now, those of you who've been following for a while know that we've been having some tech issues for the last month and a half or 2 months, and I've been working to fix them. That's what the thing I that streamed last night was. We were testing some new possible fixes because, well, I don't know why, but because of these problems, whatever is causing them, I've not been able to do the show the way I had for the previous 2.5 years, which is having a guest on and draw at the same time. Uh, I, if I put those together, everything crashed and it didn't work. So I even more have been alternating between art and interviewing people. But I'm working with the fine folks at Ecamm who are the ones who have written and backed the software I use to produce this show. I love them; they're awesome. I've got some folks from their tech division working with me, trying to solve these problems, and so we did that. But since it really wasn't a public, and a bunch of people popped in to say hi. Lala was one of them. Lala was there, and Michael and Chat was there, and several other folks. Dale was there. Um, so we had a good time, but we weren't talking business, and I don't really think that I need to keep that up on my channel full time. Sorry. But we didn't say anything of particular interest. I guess I gave away some little secrets, but nothing that I won't repeat again, so you're good. Um, Lala says that she was wondering if it's possible to go back to an older version, and I did. That was one of the things that we were testing out last night. That was an older version that I was running last night. Um, the folks from Ecamm provided me with a previous version to use, and well, Lala, you were there. You saw didn't really work. Hello, uh, hey, okay, a wolf. Hey, okay, a wolf. Hi, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. Um, Working on your own Shadowrun campaign. Oh, good for you. I maybe I should get on to the drawing so we don't spend too much time with just my face on here. I can keep talking, and I of course will take questions and comments from the chat while we go. I'm going to continue working on my cartoon homage to the cover from the original Shadowrun game, painting by Larry Elmore. And I'm going to be doing this on my iPad Pro using the app Procreate. And let me just get it ready, and then I can switch over here so that y'all can see that this is where we got up to last time. I finished basically the pencil sketch of the uh, of my interpretation. This is Larry Elmore's original painting for the cover, and over here next to it is my homage, the start of my homage. So tonight I'm going to be doing I'm going to put in the finished line art. Um, if this was a physical media drawing, I would be putting inking. I still call it inking, but really I'm just drawing on a new level. With a new layer with a black line. So just to kind of show you how this has worked out, let me see if I can shrink that a little, make this bigger. The way I've broken the image down is into three basic layers. One is the backdrop layer. You can see that I'll drop that out. All of the buildings and the car and the people they're fighting against back there are on a backdrop layer. There is two at the ATM. It's not really an ATM, but that's what I'm calling it. Are on another layer, and our shooter up front is on another layer. And I'll be inking them the same way. And then what I do usually is kind of drop in some solid whites, because right now you can see through everything, and when I finish the line drawings it'll be the same. But if I drop some strategic, just solid white layers in between some of the layers, we're going to wind up with a coloring book style line drawing. And let's start with the ATM pair. I think they are uh, they are the the stars of this drawing. I think, to me, they're the focal point. So I'm going to create a new layer there, and I'm going to come here. What else do I want to do? I want to do that, and I'm going to zoom up a little more so I can get a good look at Larry's painting, and then I'm going to do some inking. So, what was I going to say? Yeah, so when I'm done with the inking layer, I will also wind up with a coloring book image, a coloring page image. And for folks who are subscribers to either the newsletter for this show or my Patreon, I will give them access to that coloring page when it's done. And you don't have to be a paying subscriber to either one of those. You can be a free subscriber. The newsletter, the is a Substack newsletter. It's 50 Years in the Dungeon .substack.com. I guess if I hit this button, you can see that on screen. 50 Years in the Dungeon.substack.com. My Patreon is patreon.com/Stanex. As I say, there are free subscription levels on both of those. And if you join those, then when I do a finished coloring image, you get to see a lot of things. Not the least of which is that these drawings, when they're finished, you get to see them before everyone else. But you also get things that I don't show to everyone else, like coloring page drawing. Someday, I might take those coloring pages. That's looking too fat. This has got to look like a wire. This coming out of his head. We've got the whole cyberpunky uh, electronics put into the skull. I, well, this story is going to take. I need. This is. I was about to tell a story that I need to tell another story. It's a part 2 story. Um, Shadowrun is came out originally in 1989, so it is 37 years old this year. And when I was living in Japan in the early 1990s, it was still a relatively new, hot kind of commodity. There was nothing else like it out there. It was this weird mix of, and it still is a weird and interesting mix of cyberpunk and um, fantasy. Is that thumb too big? I think that thumb is too big. And when I was in Japan, I was the president of an English language gaming network for hobby games. We didn't really use the term hobby game so much then, but it's basically what it was: role playing games and board games and the like. And um, one of the other folks in that group ran a Shadowrun campaign for folks living in Tokyo. I didn't live in Tokyo, so I couldn't be part of that. But I was very good friends with the guy who was running it, and most of the people who were playing. So I heard all about it. I used to get reports on, you know, from the game master, Mike. I'd get reports beforehand what he was planning to do, and afterwards I would get reports from him and from the players on what had happened. So it was a kind of a before the internet, where we have all these, you know, streaming games where you can watch other people play. This was my report. I would get my third person gaming in by hearing about what was going on in the Shadowrun game. And that was the age when this was going on. This particular era. The image. This was the cover of the book that they were playing with. So this whole thing is very. Although I didn't play it myself, I do have very and uh, strong memories of Shadowrun in this era. Mike's game was not your typical Shadowrun. He didn't use the setting exactly like it is in this FASA version. He ran something that was a lot more had a lot more of the hard boiled cyberpunk grittiness to it. It was a great campaign. Oh, Joseph Wolf. That's why it's Hey Okay Wolf. Hey Joe, how's it going? My friend the ogre. Anyway, now I've rambled on, and I don't remember if there was a point to any of that. Thank you, Lala. Lala, telling people they should consider subscribing. Again, you really should, since they are both, like I say, there are free versions. And, I of course hope that eventually I will become, you'll become so enamored of what I do that you'll want to become a paying member. I won't hide the fact that I'd like that to happen. But I also will say, right now, right here, there's free versions. Go sign up for the free version. With the with the Substack, you get it. It really is focused on this show, right? You'll get to see what happened on each show. You'll get an update of what's going on in the coming weeks, what to expect. Uh, you get there are rewards for paying members that don't appear anywhere else. Like just today, I put up a process video for the previous drawing I did. Now, because I work in Procreate, because I use the app Procreate, it automatically creates a video of step by step everything I draw in a drawing. And I can output that and share it, and it just gets what I just call a process video. You get to see the drawing come to life stroke by stroke over the course of, I usually time it out to about a minute. Let's see what else is going on here. He's got that. I gave him these. He's got some kind of pendant going on there. If I know cyberpunk, it's probably, or if I know uh, shadow dark, it's probably some kind of magical pendant. Anyway, so I was saying that last night I did this impromptu live stream where we were working on overcoming the tech difficulties that have been plaguing the show. Um, Today, I heard back from I sent a report after we finished. I sent a report off to the tech who I've been working with, telling him, okay, here are the results. This worked, this didn't, this surprise thing happened. And today I heard back from him again, uh, asking if I had time to uh, get on a Zoom call with him so he could ask me some questions, and maybe I could show him some uh, uh, some stuff from my screen's point of view. And so we did, right? I have to say it would be easy for folks to hear about the tech problems I'm having and thinking, oh wow, I don't know about that. Uh, I don't know about that Ecamm. Look at all those problems Stan is having. I will tell you exactly the opposite. They first of all, Ecamm has been great for the last 3 years since I started using it. It's only recently that this problem happened, and their tech services people have been great about getting back to me and working with me on trying to find solutions. Turns out the thing I do here on the show, where I will have something like this, where I'm a, sharing part of my screen and act with um, a graphically uh, rich, memory intensive thing like showing the drawings, and uh, and having a live interview subject come in at the same time and putting them on the screen at the same time. There aren't a lot of people who do that, so it's not a use caseage that they've had to specifically worry about. So this problem I'm having, there aren't a lot of other people who are having that same problem. Um, in fact, almost no one is. Uh, in fact, I would go so far as to say no one is having the exact same problem. Almost no one is having any problem even close. And the I've been working with someone who is on the tech team uh, for Ecamm, and they've been great. Right, it's given me several options and given me resources I wouldn't have had otherwise to try. And to say he contacted me and said, "Hey, do you have time to come and meet with me about this?" So I definitely have this feeling that Ecamm cares, and they're trying their best to solve this problem. It's just that my problem's kind of unique. And I can tell you, as someone who has worked on products that are published, which is similar to doing releasing a piece of software is a product that's published, right? You need to worry about the the usage case for most of your users, right? Your as in the company's time is limited. They can't they can't do everything, so they have to prioritize the things that are going to be of use for the most people and solve the problems that are going to bother the most people. My problem is kind of, if not absolutely unique, it's pretty rare. So the fact that they've got a guy, they've assigned a guy to actually spend the time to have personal interactions with me and keep track of this and respond in less than a day. That's awesome. And all right, we haven't solved the problem yet, and I suppose you know, it's possible to blame them for that. Well, they haven't solved the problem. No, well, some problems are just harder to solve, particularly when they're weird corner cases like mine. So, I have nothing but awesome things to say about uh, Ecamm as a product and Ecamm as a company and their customer service. So let's see what else is going on. What else is going on? This is the week of Comic-Con International, San Diego Comic-Con is going on. I used to live in San Diego, and even if I didn't have tickets to Comic-Con, which I usually did because I work in the industry, right? Someone I was working for could help me get tickets if I didn't have them. If I wasn't being sent by the company that I worked for. Certainly, Wizards of the Coast used to send me for several years in a row. They would. This was when we were doing the Marvel, uh, the Saga system Marvel RPG, and that was the team I worked on. So I got sent several years in a row to go to San Diego Comic Con. That was a lot of fun. And then when I lived down there and I was working for Upper Deck, it was, the local con. And Upper Deck always had a big booth there and lots of passes. So I'd get to go, and even when I stopped working at Upper Deck and stayed in the area for a few years, I could usually count on them to help me get a a badge. Although, San Diego Comic Con is really good about giving free badges to professionals who work in comics or a related industry. Um, so it really wasn't difficult for me as long as I planned ahead of time to put a request in, and Comic Con would give me a visiting professional badge. It's one of the things that Gen Con doesn't do, and I talked with Peter Atkinson about that a number of years ago. I guess this is about 12 or 13 years ago, maybe a little longer. Um, I had a contract. I got a contract with Gen Con to help them kind of look at all the things they were doing and to be part of a team that was looking at ways they could improve or things they could do to improve the convention. And here now, I changed this guy's pants and shoes a lot, and I didn't really give his feet a lot of thought. Anyway, one of the things I brought up when they asked me about it, uh, a difference between Comic Con and other big cons and Gen Con. I said, well, tell you, one of the things about Comic Con is, as a pro, you just get if you can prove that you're a pro, you give clippings or um, show a pay stub from a comic company or a game publishing company or a movie, anything that's considered related to what was going on at Comic Con. If you could do that, then they would give you a badge, a free pass, a guest badge. And so, professionals from all over would travel, who wanted to go to the show, they wouldn't have to worry about the cost of getting in, and they'd have access to professional events and things like that. And so, a lot of people came. And Gen Con was having a problem. Gen Con perceived the problem that there were many people in the gaming industry that were not coming to Gen Con. Again, this is about, I'm not talking about now, this is about 15 years ago. And that was one of the reasons why they they put together this team that I was a part of. There we go. That's looking okay. What if I turn off the sketch? How does this guy look? Looks pretty good. Let's see. Um, and so one of the things I mentioned was this whole kind of, well, if I don't have a badge, if someone is not paying for my badge, it's expensive to go to. It was expensive, and it really wouldn't be worth it for me financially to pay for a badge. And it would be great if they could make it so that professionals could get uh, get in for free. And they, in conversations with the group, the problem with that came up. Um, let's say Comic Con required that you prove your professional credentials with uh, a credits page or proof that you were working for a company. And the problem that uh, Gen Con had and continues to have is that the bar to being a published author is lower than it is in the comics industry, or it was at that time in the comics industry. I wouldn't be surprised if Comic Con doesn't have this problem now too. That it's too easy to say you're a professional. Too many of the people who attend and just play games could reasonably make the claim that they have published material. They've published material within the last few years, and they should count as a pro by that definition. And Gen Con could not afford to give passes to everyone. They had to have people pay for their badges. But that was also the time, the solution that we all came up with, and I don't remember, I certainly was not the person that came up with it, but the solution that Gen Con and the team, uh, uh, I don't remember what the team said, but in the end, the solution that Gen Con chose was the increased number of uh, guests in the book and guest programming. So they increased the number of people they would give a guest badge to, but in order to get it, you needed to participate in the show. You needed to run events and do seminars or other things. And if you and some of them could be for yourself, but some of them were ones that the convention would do and would give you assignments, and you had to do X number. I think it was something like 8 hours over the course of the weekend, which is not much. It's 2 hours a day. Um, if you did 8 hours or so of work in the form of seminars and autograph signings and other things like that, then they would give you the free badge. There, okay, I think that's good. Let's turn on the sketch again. We'll go over to her. Um, and I thought that was a good solution, right? I understood Gen Con's uh, concern about the bar to being a professional being so easy to pass that they couldn't just blindly give out um, guest badges to everyone. But I think um, the solution they came up with was a good one that made it easier for professionals to have a reason to come to Gen Con. and Gen Con to get something out of it. She's got both of them have a lot of color on their faces. I'm gonna deal with that on the colors layer, not worry about it here. There are things you want to deal with as line work and things you want to just leave for color. Or things I do. I don't know about you. If you're doing your drawing, you can do it however you want. Hello, Michael in chat. Sounds like gatekeeping to you? I mean, to an extent, it is, right? They're not saying who can and can't be a professional. And in fact, the problem is that too many people can qualify. They are setting the bar for what qualifies for being um, a special guest level professional at their show. And Michael, you came in late on the story, right? This is something that happened 15 years ago, 12 or 15 years ago. So it's not. I'm certainly not talking about the current Gen Con way of doing things. What the way Gen Con does things grew out of this. Uh, and yeah, I mean, like I say, there are several things that I think is very good, and I in this conversation want to make sure that people walk away giving Gen Con credit for, and that was proactively trying to solve this problem and bringing in outside opinions and listening to them. Now, I'm going to say just there are no perfect solutions anytime, and I think that it was good that we, as the people they were bringing in, were considering that their concerns. They have to run a business. So in the end, Gen Con is a great fun weekend, but it's not just a fun weekend, it's a business for them. All right. Now, like I was saying last week, as I was working on this, I am certainly, like I have with all of the previous drawings. You can see it more in some than others, but I always am making interpretations and taking liberties, if you will, in how I draw these images. I'm not just doing it exactly the way the original did, and I kind of have to, right? I I chose I particularly chose to do these in a square format. That is this page that I'm drawing. This format I'm drawing it is square, and the original is rectangular. So in order to get it done, I've immediately got to be interpreting things anyway, and I leave it open for myself to make some impactful changes. Just do things a little different. Also, I'm, you know, doing it as a cartoon, and that also brings with it some necessary changes. And one of the things I hope to capture in my final version is the incredible 1980s-ness of this drawing, of the just the style, the hairdos, and the fashion. I don't know if you guys remember from when I was doing the pencils, but her torso was a really big challenge because the combination of her clothing and the way her posture. She's facing one way and kind of half turning another with with and also her shoulders are back, right? Her so if you look at her torso, it's kind of facing towards you, if not a little towards the left. But her head is turned hard towards the right, and her shoulders are back and pulled back so that her left shoulder is pointing off towards the right a little. Her right shoulder is pointing off towards the left a little. It's a complicated posture. I'm trying to interpret that. Let's see. What else is going on here? So I will not be at Gen Con this year, which has nothing to do with my previous story. Well, I guess it does have a little bit to do in that, as I was saying, going to Gen Con is expensive. And although I could certainly get professional courtesy if I went, there's not enough professional reason for me to be there. There's not business happening, and besides the badge and getting into the convention, hotels are so expensive. So I will not be at Gen Con. However, I, along with my good friend Owen KC Stevens, who also is not going to be able to make it to Gen Con, we will be doing some live streaming, some Gen Con themed live streaming during the show. It's kind of, I would say counter programming, but that kind of makes me feel like we're somehow trying to be antagonistic. We're doing uh, cooperative or Gen Con inspired programs. We are going to have a couple of, I guess, the equivalent of online seminars. And they're based on something that Owen and I would do every year at Gen Con. The name of the events is Convo on the Couch. And the reason it's called that is at Gen Con every year, Owen and I think we both did this separately and then we started doing it together. Um, some evenings, we would, rather than go out to an event, we would just kind of come in and park ourselves in the lobby of one of the hotels on a couch, or the lobby or the hotel bar. You know what? I guess the thing is, can't getting the fringes on these jeans is tough. I never knew it was so hard to draw cut-off jean shorts. um, anyway, we would have a pick a spot in one of the major convention hotels, and we would just hang out in the lobby. Now, and everyone was welcome to come and sit down with us. Now, um, we're kind of recognizable. We're both big guys with the distinctive looks, and we've got a lot of friends who are also in the industry, and so we would just kind of sit there and talk to anyone that came. We saw someone we knew. Hey, come on, hang out, because Gen Con's all about that, seeing people you don't get to see anywhere but there. But then there were a lot of people we knew who were not, who were guests, who were attendees and fans, and we let it be known that we were doing this. So just stop by the Omni Hotel, and we will be hanging out. And so we got kind of known for doing that. It was kind of a mix between uh, a classical French salon and a talk show like the Graham Norton show. And so we would just spend the evening there, quite, often two and a half or 3 hours or more, just sitting on the couch talking to whoever came by. And we had a great time. So we've turned that into a live stream show where we just kind of it's basically an ask me anything. Like anyone who wants to can pop by. And we also try and get some guests. We encourage our friends who are not at Gen Con to stop by and just kind of say hi if they want to promote anything or just hang out. Um, so we will be doing that on Friday, the 31st of August, and on Sunday, the 2nd of. It's Friday, the 31st of July, and Sunday, the 2nd of August. And of course, all you fine folks, if you're not going to be at Gen Con and you're looking for something to do, you are encouraged and welcome to come and hang out. There's another thing. I usually do three-fingered cartoons in this, and sometimes so like this guy clearly three fingers on that hand, three fingers on that hand. But if given the way she's going, if I put three fingers on her hand here, I don't know because I'm thinking this hand is also going to be three fingers. Got to somehow make this work so it doesn't look too weird. Okay. Speaking of, let's come over here and do this right away. So, anything on your mind out there? Anything you want to hear me blather on about, or questions you want to ask? I'm always happy to talk about stuff. Hmm. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the chat right now. So if you were telling me something, I'm not ignoring you. But until I finish this hand, figure this hand out, maybe I shouldn't have asked right away. All right, let's see what's going on here. Night, Joe. Thank you for popping in. Good to see you. So, how exactly did the Zoom meeting go? All right. Okay. So, it went great. We he looked at the logs of what had gone on, and we talked. He he kind of said in person some of the things he'd put in the other emails that he could see what had gone on, and that the new update was clearly when my problem started, but also that there was no, given the way the uh, app is coded, it that shouldn't be a problem, but clearly it was, and couldn't really figure out why. Um, we were able to reproduce it. I did another stream with him this afternoon, or I guess it was this morning for me. It was afternoon for him, and we did it privately, so there was no chance for anyone else to join in. And uh, and I was kind of afraid that, as often happens when, either when you take your car to the mechanic or you go to see your doctor about a problem, and the problem won't reproduce while the professional is looking. I was worried that that was going to happen, and honestly, I was just talking to him about it. He said he was kind of uh, expecting that to happen because that's what always happens. And at first, it looked like we weren't going to be able to reproduce it, and then just as he was saying, "All right, well, I understand what you're talking about." It reproduced, and he got cut out of the live stream just the way Troy and other guests have been. And he was able to say, "Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. I still don't know why that's happening. That shouldn't happen, but clearly it is." So that was good. I gave him data he could take back to all the other people in the on his team to talk about it. Again, the larger challenge is that the thing that causes this problem is such a weird corner case that it's unclear how much resources or how much how much importance needs to be put into solving it. However, certainly he thinks that given that it's a problem, they need to understand why it's happening so they can see where else it might turn out to be a problem later on. So they get to work on it now. He came back with a potential solution, which is so I use as a subscriber to Ecamm. When I have a guest, I have a direct URL I can give them to log into what's considered the green room, to interact with um, my app. But Ecamm also over the last couple of years has been working closely with Zoom to create a, a native integration, so I can start and manage a Zoom conference inside the uh, Ecamm app. And uh, the tech guy's opinion is that if I do that, that will bypass this problem we're having, and I will be able to have guests. If I bring the guests in through Zoom, then we won't have the crashing problem. So I just need to test that. And if that works, then I'm just using Zoom from now on to do my show, and in theory, I can just keep going. Although I kind of I find Zoom to be a little clunky to work with in this way. I've done it. Um, I've done it in the past. I don't know how many of you may have seen the episode where I talked to Ed Greenwood, um, or the trouble I had getting Ed on. We had a lot of tech problems getting Ed onto in through the program, and I solved it by using Zoom. So I found that whole process to be a little uh, not as easy as doing it through the in-app guest streaming, but it certainly worked, and I do use Zoom for a lot of other things. So if this works, it may mean that I just have to always use Zoom for 50 years in the dungeon. And that will mean almost no difference to, and it will mean no difference to almost everyone, and a significant uh, difference and minor annoyance to me. So that's how my meeting with the guy from Ecam went. Uh, he gave me that info and gave me a little some advice on what he thought I should try and do with the Zoom, how to make it work. But which was basically the usual. There was nothing that I hadn't heard before, but of course it's good to get a confirmation and as much help as possible from the tech guy. Oh, I didn't give her her sword. That's all right. I guess she doesn't really. She's got a gun and magic. I don't think I need to give her a sword. Um, Chris Anderson. To be fair, Ed Greenwood was calling long distance from the realms. Yeah, it's weird. I I don't know what happened. Ed, of course, also kind of renowned for not being the most tech savvy guy. So I was sure that it was something that in his setup that was causing the problem. Not that it mattered, right? But once we got that settled, and someone was saying, "Is it because he's calling from Canada?" Like, I don't think so, but can't say no. Can't say it absolutely isn't because of that. But we sorted it out, and I got him on using that Zoom integration. So I know it works. I've used it before, and yeah. All right, so let's turn that off. And there we have, I think, the. Now I'm thinking here about how this is going to look in coloring book version. So I've got to add a couple of lines there to make sure that this reads clearly as just a line drawing. Some of these lines just didn't come out as clean as I wanted to be. we go. Those are our two main figures in line drawings. If I turn back on, our shooter will float above them on that level, and the background will go below them. Looking pretty good so far. So now I'm going to turn off that line drawing, turn back on their blue. Well, you know what? I don't need that at all. I can turn them off entirely. And we'll go and have a new layer for just the shooter. This guy with the kind of half kabuki, half clown makeup. Yeah, the Michael or Chris Andrews says he didn't notice that she only had four fingers. His eye naturally went to other places, other pieces of her anatomy. There's some people that that is such a standard style in cartooning, particularly for TV animation. A lot of people just don't notice it until there's a particular um, pose or action that draws attention to it. And one of them is doing weird hand shapes. Like you don't. If I just drew them, there were three fingers going quickly. You don't notice. You don't notice he's only got three fingers on his hands. You didn't notice on the other ones. But when I've got her doing that kind of magically hand, and it's got okay, one finger's doing this, one finger's doing that, and then there's only one more finger. You immediately look at it and go, "Where's that extra? Where's her missing finger? Did she? Is she a member of the Yakuza? Did she have to give up that finger? Why did she have to give up that finger?" And the answer is no, she's just a tune. She's just a tune. It's just Toon Town, baby. It's just Toon Town, Eddie. Just let it be. Now here, I put it on the drawing. I guess I want to put it in. Unlike the colors on her face and the elf's face, the color on this guy's face is very important. Like for a coloring book version even. So I'm gonna draw it on. I'm not sure that when it's time to color it, I might take those lines out, those black lines out, and just let the color carry the day. We'll see. Is it a lot easier to draw three fingers over four, or and four fingers instead of five? It's so hands are hard. Let's just start with that. There's no one who's ever gotten into uh, drawing of any sort who won't agree with the statement, hands are hard. They're hard to draw. Um, and depending on how realistic you're drawing, in particular, In particular for animation, um, fingers are slender things mostly, for the most part. But you in order to draw them, you kind of want to draw them a little chunkier than they are. But then that takes up extra space, and that's where it becomes harder, right? To get everything to fit in the right space, but have the size that you want them to have. It just gets difficult. It becomes, you have to spend too much time, or you have to spend extra time working on the hand. It's just harder. And someone somewhere along the way, early in animation, I think in the like early Mickey Mouse era, the 30s and the 20s, just noticed that they could get the same effect by only having three fingers. You don't need to. There's very few times you need to see everything going on. And in a drawing where you've already got a mouse or an animal of some sort, or a monster or an unreal creature, who who cares if they only have three fingers? And then once people got used to that, it became very easy just to. I didn't even notice that feather coming off the back of his head. It became very easy to just do that for most or all characters. And then it became just an accepted thing. Particularly, doing quick animation for television. Once that started to be a thing, oh boy, just take out one finger, draw the hand, the whole thing comes together quicker. You don't have to worry about, the more details you add, the easier it is to make a mistake. I'm always saying on the Thursday show that you don't have to get it right. You just have to not get it wrong in a way that draws people's attention. Same kind of thing. It's easier to get it wrong the more details you add, and it's relatively easy to get it right enough with just three. Hey Lala, thank you for stopping in. I'm so glad you could come and hang out for a while. Good luck with your meeting. I hope everything goes well. And uh, drop me a line if you think of a way that I can be helpful to you and the kids in your programs. I would love to participate in something and help out. And folks, if you are at all, you or anyone you know is into crafting, check out Lala's channel and all the live streaming she does. She does amazing stuff. All right. It's coming together pretty quickly. What else is going on here? What else is going on here? We are still in the midst of our second patch of warm weather here in the Pacific Northwest. It was 93, 94 degrees here today. That's hot. I mean, I'm not saying that's not hot. It's not stupid hot in other parts of the country. But here, the it, the buildings, so many places don't have air conditioning. Just not used to temperatures running that hot. So when we get a sustained few days of high 80s, low 90s, it gets hot. And this was day 3. Now, unlike her um, magical effect, I am putting at least the start of his firing effects in as line drawings. They're a little more physical anyway than the magic, and even if I wind up taking them out later, they're they tie into the rest of the picture. Right? I need to know where it looks like he's shooting in order to get the drawings on the background area where the the bullets are supposed to hit or the people he's shooting at are supposed to be. Right. It's kind of like making sure that a character is looking in the exact right direction, making sure that it looks like the characters are looking at what they're supposed to be looking at instead of looking vaguely in that direction. Like that. pause while I have a sip. Ay, 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 ay. Warm. Anyone in the group out there seen the Odyssey yet? I have not, but it's been a topic of conversation amongst friends of mine. Not surprisingly, I suppose. See, what we did watch, though, was the 1954 movie Odysseus, starring Kirk Douglas, which was a Dino De Laurentiis produced movie made in Italy. So it has a lot in common with uh, it has a lot in common production wise with spaghetti westerns. It's not shot with uh, sound. Uh, all the characters are dubbed, um, even in the original, and because because they work that way, uh, the Italian cinema of the era would get actors who spoke different languages, and they would all do their lines and their acting in their own language, so they didn't have to worry about being in a foreign language. It would just get dubbed into whatever the local language needed. The originals were all everyone was dubbed into Italian. But when it came time for it to be brought over to the U.S. or over to the U.K., then all the everyone would have to be redubbed into English, and where possible, they would get the original actor to dub their own lines. In this case, this movie had Kirk Douglas and Anthony Quinn in it. Uh, and they in fact did come back, and I've seen scenes from it in the American English dub, and both Kirk Douglas and Anthony Quinn came in and dubbed themselves. It's funny, you get the same kind of thing happening sometimes in Godzilla movies, where they will want to bring in an American actor, or you know not always American, sometimes a British actor or Australian actor, and they let the actors, usually, well, they let them act in their own language, and then they'll dub them into Japanese. The funny thing is that sometimes when you see the English language dub for the Godzilla movies, you'll find that they use the original. They do record for sound. Like they'll just dub out the uh, the American actors and put a Japanese speaker over them, but the American actors will be speaking English. And sometimes when they actually do the English language version, they reverse that and let the original recorded sound stay. And sometimes they still go in and get someone to re-record it anyway, because they've got to record all the Japanese voices. And it always seems weird when they do that. It's like, I can see that this guy is speaking English, and I know that's not his voice. Russ Tamblyn, who was in West Side Story, was in a Japanese kaiju movie um, called what is it? What was the English title? The Battle of the Gargantuas, I think. Or oh no, he was in Frankenstein Conquers the World, and he clearly recorded uh, in English, but they dubbed him. Had someone else do his voice, and it was not Russ Tamblyn's voice. See, Russ Tamblyn talking, and be someone that I'm familiar with, who's I know what his voice sounds like, and they decided to dub over him is just weird. Like he doesn't go to the theaters much. He might go for Spider-Man. Looks like it's going to be good. I don't go to the theaters much either. But this year there have been 2 or 3 movies that I've wanted to go, and I haven't gone to any of them. That's how little I go. It's like, yeah, I want to go see that in the theaters, and I haven't. And the current one is The Odyssey. I'd like to see that in the theater. Everything I've heard about how it was shot and made for IMAX tells me that there is part of Christopher Nolan's intended creation will be lost if I don't see it on the big screen. But on the other hand, I just want to see a movie, so we'll see. You know what? If my schedule had been a little different, I might have gone today. Just because it's so hot, it would have been nice to go into the air conditioning. But I know that a lot of people would be thinking that, and the theater would have been crowded. So I don't need that kind of hassle. All right, let's turn off the sketch on this one and see what it looks like. A couple little lines here to help. I'm really not sure what I'm going to do. For the coloring book version, I'm definitely going to have to put both the effect on her hand and the rest of these um, the gunshots in. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll do that. I'll put them in. Here we have so far our main characters. If I turn on the backdrop, we see that. Alright, so now the thing that's going to get a little uncertain about the backdrop. I was talking about this as I was making the drawing last week. Is what's going on with the what I call the ATM section, because over here it clearly is blocking out that leg. He's standing behind it. But over here, that hand is reaching over it. So that ATM exists in the middle of a layer. And how I'm going to handle that, I think. I think I'm just going to have that lower part be its own layer. Just this section of it be its own layer, which will be above everything else, and then the rest of this will just be part of the background, as usual. All right, so what do I need to do? I need to open the backdrop. I need to make a new layer. I'm going to leave those guys up there for the moment. Because I want to draw these guys. I need to know where they're going to interact. And here's another one. I talk about this a bunch too. I can zoom in. I can zoom in so much I could get a lot of detail, but I have to remember that in the final drawing it's going to be small. So I have to keep the detail to an amount that will be easily readable in that small version rather than put in all the detail I possibly could at this level. Like I could get in and doing some stuff with these eyes like that, but start going like that and it's just going to be nonsense. So I want to keep these lines as clean as possible. Like that. My friend Corey just copies the foreground intended part into a new layer. Yeah, I mean that may be what I do. I may just draw it here and then either cut and paste or copy it. The problem I want to avoid is sometimes when you put two copies over each other, although they're meant to, they should. You think one would just block out the other, they they don't. It's kind of like in audio when you overdub your own voice and you sing the same song twice or the same passage in a song. It sounds like two people singing it, and sometimes in these digital drawings, despite the fact that all you're really doing is putting one layer on top, directly over on top of another. Um, Sometimes it still gives an effect, and you can tell that there are two layers on top of each other. So it's kind of a play it by ear thing. This guy's face just turns out to be so weirdly placed. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I think that's going to be a figure it out when I'm doing the coloring thing. And then this guy, and then I think after I get this in, I will change it so that I take um, our guys in the foreground out, and I can just draw the background without any other blocking going on. There we go. All right, so let's turn off our people there, and we can just finish out this thing here. Knowing that all of this is going to be hidden. How strange. It was not that strange, really. Again, like I said while I was drawing this, tech and vehicles are not my best thing. That's no excuse, right? I still need to try to do it as much as well as I can. But one of the things about that kind of situation where it's not my best thing is I'm caught in a little logic loop, like that goes from it's not my best thing to I've got that means I need to try harder to I'm not really satisfied with it to yeah, but it's not my best thing. And it just kind of loops around. Oh, what do we got? I kept calling your eCam problem memory leak because it reminded me so much of the memory leak problem we had with our VR software. Yeah, turns out there were two memory leaks. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, so weird because I agreed with you. It really did seem like there was a memory leak, like that, and that my machine was being asked to do too much. There was just it was put that these crashes were happening because an undue stress was being put my on my system. But having worked with it with a tech guy and having pulled up the um, what's it program whose name I'm not remembering right now that shows where memory usage is going on in the Mac, and looking at it while we were pulling it up on screen while we were doing lots of different things and seeing that that wasn't the case at all. Uh, Because it sure was behaving like that was the problem. But he was pretty sure that wouldn't be the case. There was no reason for it to be. And looking at the actual numbers while we were running the test, turned out that's not what was going on. That's not what the problem is. Now, unfortunately, we still don't know what the problem is, but we know that it isn't that. Yeah, it really did look like one, Michael. I agree with you. And I thought that you were clever to suggest that. However, as often happens in science, just because it looks like a thing doesn't necessarily mean it is a thing. And no matter how much it looks like it, when you do all the testing and have the data in front of you, and the data tells you that's not happening, you have to reassess and start looking at other solutions. But yeah, it sure seemed like it. And I was totally willing to, until proven otherwise, I was totally going down that route. Did he have me monitor my net congestion too? Um, yes. Yes, we pulled up a bunch of different. Uh, we pulled up CPU usage and bandwidth usage, and what was going through the pipe. What the response was from theirs, and ay 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 ay. Now you're wondering if it's a port problem. I don't know. I don't know. It very quickly, once it gets beyond basic things like that, it's beyond my area of expertise, my area to speak knowledgeably. I'd say the thing that one of the things was most um, perplexing him was that he was able to look at the logs, like, so Ecamm logs activity and keeps a log of it. Now, I was able to send him my logs, and he was able to look at it and see the the reports on what was happening where and see the problem happening. And he kept looking at it, and one of the things he kept saying is like those two things should not have anything to do with one another. Right? He could see where the problem was. It wasn't like a what is happening here. It is why is a this affecting a that. It shouldn't do that. And again, I totally willing to take his word for it since he works on the team and is a specialist in that area, and I don't and am not. But yeah, I that's what I found most amusing in what was perplexing him was it's like that. I can see what's happening, and that those two things should not affect one another, and yet they are. They clearly are. So we'll see. I mean, for now, hopefully, going and trying this using Zoom will solve the problem. And I guess from my perspective, in the short term at least, all I really care about is solving the problem so I can do the thing I want to do. Why it works, how it works, really really not my worry. I mean, in the long term, one of the questions I posed earlier on was if this means that I can't I can't use any updates. Like I have to keep using this old version of the software. But by going to Zoom, that no longer is the case. I'm back using the latest version. Now, does that mean that I can never? Well, and I can still use the interview functionality as long as I'm not trying to draw at the same time. But that just means I need to remember to two different ways to do things forever. And like I was saying a little earlier with Lala, part of the challenge for me long term is that I was saying this maybe I was saying this at lunch. Uh, I I don't remember how to do things. I figure out how to do it and then I don't touch it. Okay, it works now. I've got it to work. I'm not interested in plumbing the depths and seeing how I can improve it. I just want it to keep working. And that's fine until it stops working. And then I have to learn new things. And that's the point I'm at now. The old dog needs to learn new tricks. They may discover a key fundamental code structure that never. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, or yeah, maybe my problem here will help them discover a problem that they never knew was there, and it will be helpful in ways they didn't ever think they would need it to be. Maybe I've helped them learn something that will make Ecamm a better product from now on for everyone, and they will all sing my praises and bring me oatmeal cookies. I don't know why I said oatmeal cookies. I don't really like oatmeal cookies that much. They're okay. I'd rather have chocolate chip. it's weird that I started. Well, it's not. So I wanted to start with those characters, but I usually will start in the foreground and not the middle or background in these pieces. So I need to finish this building and then come back to do the foreground of the background, the closer part of the background. There we go. Let's turn off the pencils for a second to see how that looks. All right, that looks pretty good. Not bad. Not bad, it said. Hello, Dale and Cindy. Chocolate chip are the best. Chocolate chip are great. Macadamia is good too. Like kind of white chocolate macadamia. That's a fine cookie as well. But give me a choice, and I'm going with the chocolate chip. All right, now I want to come back and make the brush size a little bigger again because I'm going to work with these foreground pieces. Again, the foreground of the background. I'm taking great advantage of the fact that the app lets me draw a roughly straight line and it snaps into a perfectly straight line. But that's a thing that there are times when having everything have the perfectly straight line just looks too clean. Whereas all my other lines have a organic kind of wobble to them. If too much of it has that pure straight line, it's the same effect that you get in animation, an animated show or movie where you've got hand drawn or roughly hand drawn characters and vector objects. Very often, machinery or backgrounds will be done in vector when the characters and even the the background is done in in a more, my goodness, that was thunder. It never happens around here. Well, this could bring a whole new problem to the stream. If I disappear, it may be that we suddenly had a power outage. I don't think we're supposed to have winds high enough to do that, but you never know. Uh, yeah, that when they first started doing that uh, vector machinery, mixed in with the other kinds. The vector machinery just stood out and looked so out of place. They've since gotten better at creating a kind of vector that feels more naturalistic and allows them to use computer aided design, CAD, to design to animate the machinery and still have it look like it belongs in the same world as the hand drawn and hand designed characters and backgrounds. But still, sometimes it just doesn't work out right. Ooh, can you guys hear that thunder? Probably not. It's pretty soft. Dale and Cindy, how are you folks doing? How are things in the lovely state of Wisconsin? Finished celebrating your Brewers clobbering of my Mets? I'm not saying you shouldn't. Go ahead and celebrate. You should. The Mets coming to town is good news for any team this season, except the Mets. No matter where they go, it's bad news for them. Mm. Hey Dale, did you get out to EGG Con this past weekend in Lake Geneva? I know that several folks we know were there. Ed Greenwood and Ed Stark. Other Eds. Here we go. So everything from this point down has got to be done forward. But I think I'm going to draw it all here. And as Michael suggests, I may just copy and paste it, or I may cut and paste it. But right now, for this drawing, I'm going to draw it all as one. Right, this is where we're drawing. I should have moved that. I was so comfortable with my pencils that I didn't move the reference. That's always a bad idea. Keep your reference handy so you can refer to it, even if it's just occasionally, to make sure that you're getting the effect that you want. There we go. Chris says, I keep thinking today's Thursday because it's 2 nights in a row with drawing, with streaming. Yeah, well, gonna get a third night tomorrow, my friend. I've got some other things I'm gonna doing. I don't think I'm gonna have a uh, add any regular weekly things, but I think that I may have a few projects that I pop on to do on Tuesday nights more often. That may be something that happens a few more times through the summer where I'm on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. Or I may start doing some stuff during the daytime. Oh my. So here's another problem that happens. I don't know if you saw that pop up on the screen, but my Apple Pencil right now, because I've been drawing for 2 solid hours without giving it a chance to recharge, it only goes for about 2 hours without a charge. But it only takes about 10 minutes to recharge. So let's come in here, chat for a bit. Let's see. So let me pull this out, and we can look again. This is where we're at. All right. I'm not sure what I think about this. I gave my characters a kind of a light line, and now I put all that heavy line on the background stuff, and I'm not sure how I like. Not sure whether I like how that reads. might need to come in here. Can't do anything if my pencil's charging, so I don't have to do anything right now. I've got the iPad plugged in, so it's not losing a charge, but the Apple Pencil sure is. Because I'm going to Gen Con next week, and I hope to meet Tracy Hickman. Oh, excellent. Tell him I say hi. And you know what? Here's the other thing. Tell him he should come back on my show again. Because I sent him an email. I know that he and Laura were in the middle of something when I sent it, so I bet it just kind of got put into a pile to be referred to later. But I had Tracy on a couple of years ago. I'd love to have him back, and I'm going to be dropping him a line. So you, Chris, can help to soften the ground, uh, uh, prep the ground for seeds by if you get to talk to Tracy, tell him I say hi, and and tell him he should come back on my show again. Hello, Matthew Snow. Glad you could pop in and join us. Still got some more drawing to do tonight. Right now, I'm letting my Apple Pencil recharge a bit because 2 hours straight apparently is too much for it. Can I blanketly narrow the thickness on the lines on a layer? I can't because it's not because it's raster. It's not vector. Um, very often, what I do is I uh, I just change it from solid black to a lighter color, which kind of drops it in the background, and then it actually helps to have them a little thicker. It helps to have that uh, kind of pop out a little more. Um, Thank you, Chris. No, I like the way they're looking, but I'm looking at them in comparison to the uh, the architectural elements they're interacting with, and they seem a little thin lined. I'm not sure that's a problem. In fact, I'm not sure it's a problem that needs to be addressed everywhere. But I think like parts of the elf's hand and arm need to have a slightly thicker line. I think the woman's gun and maybe her hair and collar and maybe her profile could use it. And I think that the shooter out front could definitely use just a little added thickness to help him pop a little more further forward in the screen. And if I had stuck with a lighter weight line on that architectural material, that might not have been necessary, or it might still have been necessary. Hard to say. Um, let's see. Is there anything else that I can do or show you while we're waiting here? Oh, you know what? If I had remembered to bring something from the other room, I don't want to run away and just leave the screen blank and walk away. Uh, but I could definitely. Definitely something I could show you. Which of these types of homage drawings am I ever tempted to add a small detail of my own, like putting a funny message on the ATM? Well, I'm. I don't know what I'm going to do with There's a graffiti all over the place on this, so I'm tempted to put some of that in there. The adaptations I make to the drawings already feel like I'm adding things of my own. I can't think of any where I wanted to add something special. Maybe I'm just not remembering. The gunman seems like the thick type. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll probably gonna put something in the graffiti that's on the wall and on the ATM. Amongst friends, you won't mind looking at a circle of my kitchen if I go to get a thing. Um, all right, all right. I'm gonna go get a thing. You guys wait here. I'll be back in a minute. Don't mock my kitchen. I'm coming back now. All right, I'm back. Here we go. Disney is famous for hidden Mickeys. Oh yeah. Oh, there's all kinds of hidden Mickeys. Um, do you know? Do you know about uh, the Little Mermaid hidden phallus story? All right. I don't know. So here I'm going to take this. I'm going to switch views back to just me. Just me. Um, you may have seen in on my social media, on my Facebook feed, uh, a week or two ago, I made a post asking if anyone could get me a copy of a TCG, a card from the Shadowrun TCG. The card was called Bullet Barrier, and Radovich did. This is the card, Bullet Barrier. Very nice. Um, the Little Mermaid. No, it's not little. It's not the priest that marries him. Uh, I'll tell that story after I finish this one. Um, yeah. So this is. I don't know. Hold it up again so you can see the. We've got a bunch of Shadowrun, some runners with a mage casting a spell over the top of them. Now, this seems like kind of a weird, out of nowhere ask, right? What does that have to do with anything? Let me hold it up a little closer. And the reason is that this painting, which is done by an artist named Alan Pollock, who was on staff at TSR, he had a freelance assignment doing art for this game. Um, yeah, no, the guy had you know, a nice protective shield. Um, so Alan used to work as often as possible, and I think almost exclusively, from photo reference, or he certainly did whenever possible. And so this was sometime in the first few months that I was been at TSR, and I think it was Alan. Someone came around and asked me if I could come and be part of a photo shoot, which I had already done for a Spellfire card or two. So sure, and a Dragonlance book cover. So went and I took part in this photo shoot, and I came across this uh, uh, photo. I was going through some files the other day, and I found this big printout that they'd done, and they gave each of us a copy of it. But here is the photo shoot, and here is the card. You can see that orc standing on the side holding a gun. That's me standing on the side holding a cardboard tube. And I always knew that he'd done it, and I'd seen the original when it came out, and I just totally forgot about it. But when I found the photo, I thought, man, I'd love to have a copy of that card, and I'll put him up, make a frame, put him up like that. So there you go. That is why I was looking for a bullet barrier card to go with my photo reference photo. Now that I've done that here, I'm thinking maybe I should just, I should probably tell that story again, reshoot this, and make a reel out of it. I've been thinking, I know that I need to do more shorts, short videos for YouTube. Like, I need to do more reels so that, because that will help get more engagement for the channel. These long streams are great for guys like you who want to come and hang out for 2 or 3 hours. But most people who don't know they won't like me, if they don't like me already, they don't want to watch a 3-hour stream. So I need to do more things that are short. And I could do a short telling the story of this that might be worth, making a short out of. All right, I'm gonna move this off to the side because I want to grab my little towel because it's sweaty still. All right, so the Little Mermaid story is the cover illustration for the original VHS release. There's a basically, I don't remember who the artist was who did it, but he's talked about it. They basically an assignment came in that they needed it done over the course of a weekend. Like they were getting ready to send it to press, and no one had done the cover painting, and it had to get done over the course of the weekend. And so he did it over the course of the weekend. He put together, it's the Little Mermaid and Eric and Sebastian in the foreground, and a big kind of golden palace in the background with spires and towers shooting up. And one of them, I believe the guy, because he's not the kind of guy that does this sort of thing. One of them clearly looks like a penis. It's just right above Ariel's head, and it's a big golden penis. And no one noticed. He got through. He sent it in. It got approved. It got sent off to print. It hit the stores. It went out, and someone out in the world said, "Hey, look at these Disney guys trying to stick a penis in the Little Mermaid." And well, you know what I mean. And they looked at it, and yeah, there's a lot of hugga-mugga. There's a lot of hooing and hawing, and the print run, I think what hadn't sold already got pulled back, and the art got retouched and redone and sent out. So the image that's on there is very similar to what was in the original one, but the palace does not have a tower that looks like a penis on it. And you can Google that up. You can web search that up. There's a lot of people who, and there have been a lot of posts and rants and ramblings of people saying that it was done on purpose, or that the guy that did it was about to get fired and did this as a screw you to Disney before he left. But if you see any of the pieces done by the people who were involved, not just the artists, but the other people involved in commissioning it and such, they all kind of agree that this was something that happened at the last minute that never, usually would have been a 2 week project to do a cover like that and had to get done in a weekend. And something slipped through. So there you go. That is the phallic little mermaid story. The end. All right, how are we doing here on the thing on the brush? It's now it's something. It's only like 10 minutes. We got almost full recharge. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to look at this again, and I think that all right. I definitely think that this part needs a little extra. That does. See, just adding a little bit of extra weight here and there really helps the whole character stand out a little stronger. So I don't think I need to go back and do the whole guy, or all the characters. But I think that I do need to add a little bit of weight to some of these lines. I mean, I don't know. It's part of this is certainly my critical eye, my overly critical eye, looking at my drawing and thinking it needs to be more perfect. But part of it, I think, is not just that. I think that it really does need that little extra bit of standout. And then in particular, we come over to the shooter again and do the same thing. Uh, all right, so I'm dropping the opacity on the other two so that I can see more clearly how he stands out against them. Yeah. All right, I think that does it. Now I can turn that back up, and I think that they do. This guy's lip still does not quite. No, come on. Come on. Be bold. Sometimes, if you just saw there, oh, you can't see, I didn't put it back on. Ha ha. Sorry. Should have looked up earlier. Yeah, so I've come back in and I've added lines. I'm sorry, my bad. I've added lines a few places, thickened things up. I don't know if you can see them now. And that would be kind of the. I don't know. If you can see a difference, let me know. But uh, I think that it was a small difference that made a small change that made a lot of difference to my eye. And I may have just been being a little too precious. But I think that by adding those little bits of weight, and I'm sorry for not showing you what they were, it would have been much more informative for you. Hello, Sean Smith. Ugh. That's what happens when you're doing live TV, as it were. All right, let's see now. 8:30. Been doing this 2.5 hours. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep going, but a little longer anyway. Let's turn them off because I'm pretty close to finishing the lines. Yeah, so let's wrap this up. I'm going to stick around. I don't know how much time you guys have to hang out and do nothing with me, but I'm going to keep working on this. And try to finish the line drawing for the background. And that way I'll be ready to make the coloring page. In fact, I don't know, I might even continue to do that because once I'm finished doing the line drawings, as I explained at the top of the show, I will need to go back to the view we were just looking at before with everything turned on, and anywhere two layers overlap, I'm going to have to put in some kind of solid white, some opaque white to block it. And then that will create something that looks like a coloring book page. and then you guys can. I'll put that in the newsletter. Put that in the Substack. I'll also put it on the Patreon, and you folks who are subscribers can download them and color to your heart's content. See, Sean Smith says, new here. Clearly, clearly, you're welcome. All new folks are welcome. Digging what I see so far, I've always had issue with backgrounds and foregrounds. Always been more of a character designer. Yeah, it's so. There's a lot of artists I know who struggle with that, and you know what? I'm one of them too. And I would, uh, drawing for myself, I'll draw just the character all the time. But if you are an artist and you are looking, particularly if you're putting together a portfolio or you're trying to get any kind of work or demonstrate your skill, it is so much more effective to have even a slight implied background than to have your characters floating uh, in a sea of white. On my Thursday show, you come back tomorrow, Sean. Um, I do improv cartooning where uh, I get a drawing prompt, a randomly generated drawing prompt, and I draw it. And I've found that, uh, uh, well, and I often talk about what I'm doing, and I very often say that just the hint, like even shadow on ground and a little bit of of texture, like pebbles or grass, or the hint of a wall baseboard behind a character and a little bit of shading changes how um, how people perceive the drawing immensely. And like I say, if you are ever trying to get work or make a portfolio, um, an art director, I can tell you as someone who has been an art director, when I see someone who just has character designs, I think, all right, well, and particularly if it's just very posy character designs, like here's a drawing of a big guy waving a sword or a superhero flexing their muscles. Um, I think that's great, but I need to know if you can draw a scene, right? There's so few jobs these days that are just draw a character. You need to have the skills to put the character in a scene and show the character with different emotions or uh, in different in poses that convey emotion and situations that convey a story. So my and I know you didn't ask me for any advice, but just based on what you said, my advice to you is even though you are most comfortable drawing character designs, it would behoove you to get yourself more comfortable with creating implied settings. And take that for what it's worth. Um, I'll tell you another thing I will say. I know nothing about you, but just that little bit of conversation. I am part of a group uh, that meets on Sundays in an online um, Zoom call that's sponsored by the Graphic Artists Guild. It's called Freelance Fandango, and if you go to the Graphic Artists Guild page, or that you'll see that. Uh, Come and join us one of these Sundays if you can. There's lots of folks there who have done all kinds of work like this and love looking at portfolios. And you know what, we always ask what kind of feedback you want. So you're not going to get people who are giving you, tearing into you when you don't want it, or giving you feedback that you're not looking for. So it will be totally up to you what what kind of feedback you want to hear. But there's a lot of very smart people there, uh, and I will go so far as to say, including me. Um, and so, if ever you're at a point where you are looking for input, or you're looking for a group of people that you can just ask questions to, one of the big things we do is just uh, answer questions about our careers, and what we know. And we get a lot of students coming in from graphic design classes. They usually show up once and then never come back. But every once in a while, one of them becomes a regular, and then we add to our group knowledge. So yeah, freelance Fandango with the Graphic Artists Guild of America. And everyone is welcome. It's totally free. Um, it's a The Graphic Artists Guild does a lot of different online events. So look at their calendar. You can find all kinds of awesome, like webinars and discussions and meetups and things like that. That you don't have to be a member of the guild. Many of which you don't have to be a member of the guild. Freelance Fandango is definitely one of them. I'm not a guild member. I don't belong to the guild. Um, but I have a bunch of friends who do, and they're the ones that started Freelance Fandango. In fact, Freelance Fandango started as a live meet in person event here in the Pacific Northwest. And in fact, it's still going on. It's a Monday morning meetup in Tacoma, in the city of Tacoma. And it also is open to anyone who wants to come. That is not sponsored by the Graphic Artists Guild. That's just a little kind of working group. So, if you happen to live in the Pacific Northwest and you want to join us, let me know. I'll send you the information on how you can join us for Freelance Fandango Live in Tacoma. All right. So now we need these are bullets hitting the pavement. This guy's bullets hitting the pavement. One presumes it's that guy. No one else over there is shown firing. There we go. Looking good. Sean says, I've always really drawn for fun. I've only done stuff for other people a few times, mainly characters for D&D and once for a tattoo. I do plan to work on children's book in the future. Yeah, so you know what? When it's worth your while, check it out and come over. I I've certainly done my fair share of D&D character designs. In fact, I will. Here's a little spoiler for you all. Uh, I don't know exactly what's going to come of this, but I intend. All right, how am I going to do this now? All right, what I'm thinking of, sorry, I'm interrupting the story I was going to tell. What I'm thinking of for these, it's really not a need to draw the lines around them here. I could do that all in color. I don't know. So all of these lines anyway mostly were quick thrown off approximation of where I'm going to put the windows. And I still don't need to figure out exactly where I'm going to fit the windows. But if I'm going to do this as a coloring book image, I do need them on there. All right. All right, you've convinced me. I know, you haven't done anything. It's me. I'm convincing myself. But I do need to do them a little more carefully. Anyway, so I was about to tell you something. I am planning to. Well, I guess planning is a little hard. I'm looking at the feasibility of starting a new personal project where I do D&D character designs and uh, just post them. Like, and we talked about this previously because Michael was telling me how much he's already told me I should be doing that, and he's been telling me that for 2 years, and I'm not saying he's wrong. Um, yeah, so um, now those, of course, kind of against what I just told you, Sean. When I do those, they won't have any backgrounds. They're just going to be character designs. So there certainly is a place for that kind of thing, but it's got it's pretty much always going to be either a single commission drawing for one client or a personal project. of Tacoma's. Yeah, 2,000 miles. Yeah, well, you probably want to stick to the online version then. Maybe coming soon. Standees. I yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe. I don't know. The idea of doing things like that, like a bunch of characters that are, you know, character illustrations, character designs, D&D character designs, with a little paragraph about the character. I can certainly see a book of those. There's a place for that in our modern world of indie design. Here's just a bunch of NPCs for you to use. Maybe, including some light stats. Probably not full D&D stats. Maybe Shadow Dark stats, or just kind of hint stats. When I say hint stats, I mean like not stats that actually fit a game, but like strength, 75%, or some such. Right, break everything down to percentage or ABCD rankings. All right, now if I turn off the, how does that look? Yeah, that looks all right. That's about what I want. Although again, these guys definitely need a little thicker line to stand out as a middle ground between the foreground construction and the background buildings. like that there. There we go. Gotta be careful. Look at that, Sean. You got one potential customer. Bet you didn't know that might happen when you showed up tonight. You never know what's going to happen when you show up to a Stan live stream. Anything could happen. All right, good. Turn that back on. A couple more buildings, and we can have a call it an evening. 9 o'clock. Holy cats! Bum 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 bum. Oh yeah. So what I'm working on, Sean, you may not have been able to see, is I'm doing an homage to this painting, which is a cover for a game called Shadowrun, which Michael has kindly already told you about. Um, and this is my cartoon homage, my cartoony interpretation of this painting by uh, fantastic fantasy artist Larry Elmore. Those were already zoomed in pretty tight when you walked in. Go. Put a few more windows up here. Do the same thing I did last time, and it's an easy way to not have to worry about getting a ruler out, measuring it. Just Draw it as one big box, and then only put windows where I need them, and erase the rest. It definitely is one of my favorite parts of working digitally, is the ease with which guidelines and unneeded lines can be discarded without leaving a trace. Working in a physical media, you can do that and put the guidelines in. In fact, you do, and then you've got to erase them. So you got to be careful not to, when you put them on in the first place, it's got to be very faint, and sometimes they don't erase as well as you want, and sometimes you accidentally erase more than you want. Kind of just more of a, you have to be more careful, and it's a little bit more of a hassle. Digitally, man, just it's either there or it's not. So you can put it down, and then if you take it out, it's like it was never there. Go. Shadowrun was a magical cyberpunk setting. You know what? I in posting about this, I was reminded, or I wrote about the fact that when I was living in Japan, uh, in this was like 1989, so it's a year. I went there the same year that Shadowrun came out, and I wound up co-founding and being the president of a an English language gaming network, gamers network, in Japan. Uh, and we sponsored events and had the main thing was we had a contact sheet. So people that were interested in playing, this certainly is before role playing games and board games were cool, and it was very hard to find people who were uh, interested in playing. So I created or co-created this network to help gamers get together in Japan and play in English. Mostly they were foreigners. Mostly they were gaijin like me, But there were also a bunch of Japanese gamers who had strong English skills. But the reason I bring this up right now is one of the other co-founders, the guy who took over as president after I left, um, ran a Shadowrun campaign, and it ran for several years. I couldn't play in it because he was in Tokyo and I was not. I was about 3 hours outside of Tokyo, so I could not be there reliably. So I was not one of the core folks in the game, but he and I were really good. We became really good friends. So he used to call me up, and he would just talk about the game and what he was planning to do, and I'd help him talk through and brainstorm ideas. And then when they were done each week, a couple of the other members of the group were also friends of mine, and they would call me up and tell me about what happened in the game. So I got to hear about it from the GM's pre-game perspective and then from the player's post-game perspective. And it was really awesome. Um, my friend Mike, who was GM, is now an editor at Viz Media. In fact, he very often is my editor when I work for Viz. Um, but also just a really great GM. But his version of Shadowrun was much more cyberpunky. Like he he liked having the magic, but he didn't. He thought that the version that FASA produced was just a little. He didn't care about their stories as much as they did their world setting. He just kind of wanted a generic fantasy cyberpunk to tell the story he wanted to tell, and it drew from a lot of anime and manga. It definitely drew a lot from uh, like Appleseed and Ghost in the Shell and other Shiro Masamune stuff, and from Akira and other Harmageddon, things that were popular back then in the 80s and 90s. So when I think about Shadowrun, I usually think about Mike's game rather than the official FASA core version. All right, tell you what, I like the idea of these ones hanging out in the middle, but they're going to be the hardest to draw. Well, I don't know about the hardest, but I've got to be mindful of the parallels so they look like they belong. I haven't looked up at what's going on in the chat in a hot minute. I'll look up in a sec. What's going on here? Did I ever see the cover of the Japan edition of Shadowrun? I'm sure I did, but off the top of my head, I can't think of what it looked like. Noble Knight has a pic of it. I will try to go look that up. When did it get published in Japan? I don't remember. I don't remember it being available as a Japanese in a Japanese edition when I was there. I was there, as I say, from late '89 until mid '94. I mean, it may have been there, but we were so busy playing with the FASA version, I didn't look at it, or I certainly didn't pay a lot of attention to it. It was there. I'm sure Mike had it. Published year '92. Yeah, I'm sure Mike had it, and I'm sure I've seen it. Uh, it was there. Yeah, for 2 years I was there. I'm sure I've seen it, but I don't have a strong memory of it. I'll have to look it up. Hmm. Tell you one of the things I do recall is that the when West End Games they were putting out Torg at the time, and um, one of the uh, one of the realms in Torg was Nippon Tech. It was based in Japan, taken over by Stellai from Extra Dimensions. Uh, but it was based in our Japan, and it was supposed to have masked itself so that it was hard to tell. And in their Nippon Tech book, they published a a subway map, but they couldn't use an official subway map, and uh, because copyright and all that legal stuff. But so they put one together, and one of the things about the subway system in Japan, kind of like a lot of major cities, certainly like New York, um, there are different lines that are run by different companies. And when you see maps of Tokyo's subway system, it almost always is for either the JR, the Japan Rail uh, lines, or the independent lines, but they don't put them on the same map because they want you to stay within their own network. But West End put together one map with all of the lines on the one map, and it was the most useful thing. Uh, I had friends who were working at West End at the time who sent me a copy of the book, and we all made copies of that subway map that they had in the book and used it. It was the most convenient single subway route map in to see how to get from one station to another. All right, let me just turn this off and look at it for a second. Yeah, that's looking good. Just a few more windows and we'll be done for the evening. Well, almost done for the evening. Let's see how this battery's doing there. 79%? Yeah, we'll keep going. Let's push our luck. Mm-hmm. Well, Sean, it may have come out well before you were born, but uh, in the last few years, there's been new editions of it printed. Catalyst Games has gotten the rights and has put out. First of all, they put out a 35th anniversary edition of this cover of the original, and they've got a new one. I think it's called Shadowrun 2027. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that number. It's Shadowrun in some year number. And there's a new version of the game which is out there right now, being supported by Catalyst Games. So it's an old school thing, and it's a current school thing. It's classic, but it still tastes fresh. So erase that. I think I want to come here. Do this. And when I get, I mean, first of all, it's been 3 hours. But also, when I get into doing these little focus things, I stop talking. It's when the show gets really kind of dull. Sorry. I want to entertain you all. I want to make it worth hanging out. And I want you to know that I appreciate you being here. All right. Well, let's zoom out a little and turn off that and see what it looks like. That looks about right. And then we can turn on the other layers and see that we've basically got a drawing there. That's looking pretty good. Chris says, I don't know why they called it Shadowrun when every square inch of the city is full of bright beaming light. Well, it's the bright neon future, but your characters are running in the shadows. You're trying to get secret stuff done. You're kind of like any good cyberpunk story, right? You're the getting things done and trying to beat the megacorps and not get found out. I mean, look at this drawing, right? The city may be bright, but where are these guys? They're in the dark. They're in the shadows. So I'm looking at this and the painting. I'm wondering. I'm not sure I'm going to even try to get the puddles on the ground. We'll see. That's going to be a coloring time decision. All right. So now, in order to make this a coloring page, uh, I get you because there's no Colbert anymore. There, you know what? I'm willing to be your discount store Colbert. All right. So, in order to make this a coloring page, I've got to make it so you can't see through the things you're not supposed to see through. How do I do that? Well, I add another layer in. Oh, first I've got to deal with the problem that I talked about before with the. Do I? Do I though? All right, this elf's leg and arm are going to be problematic, but we'll start with the shooter. I'm going to add another layer below his lines, but above everything else, and I'm going to pick a color. I'm going to pick this weird optical green, so it'll show up well, and I'm going to color in any area that you can see through him to something else. Maybe not quite that thick. Now I could color in all of him, but I don't need to. When I'm doing the coloring, the final coloring, I've got to add color. I've got to fill the whole thing with color. But right now, I don't. I just have to block out things that you can see through him. I probably won't get it 100% right the first time. But, so now, where else? Where else? Here. And then after I do that, if I change this weird green color to white, he'll just look like a solid color. That might be it. Oh wait, no, this part here. There we go. So now I just take all that green, take that layer, and I alpha lock it, and I fill it with white. And he's a solid citizen, as it were. And now I can take his whole layer and turn it off for a second. I'm going to go down and do the same kind of thing with these guys. I'm going to put a new layer behind them. And we're going to go and make sure that's, yes, its own layer. And we're going to color anywhere we can see something through them. Which is going to be fewer places because they don't overlap with as much of the city. There we go, and certainly this part here. Now, I fill that, do the same thing. I grab that, I alpha lock it. Alpha lock means it only affects something that's already there. And I fill that somewhere where I've already drawn. Fill it with white, and there. Now that leg is still problematic because it's behind a layer which is currently behind him. And I was talking about that before. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to grab just the lower part, of what I've been calling the ATM. So we're on that level. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to no. I'm I'm going to copy. I want to do that. You know what I want to do? So let's try that again. I'm gonna grab this area. Grab this area, and I'm going to copy and paste. So it's now got a from selection. See that line that says from selection? All right, I'm going to move that above. It's going to get its own little section from selection, and that's going to be above ATM pair. All right, this is a new group. I'm going to call it ATM. Bottom. All right, and in there, I'm going to do the same thing I did before, but just for this guy's leg. Now, when I alpha lock and fill layer, it now blocks his leg. All right, so here's the thing that happens from time to time. So see on the Elmore piece, you can only see that leg, and I drew it the same way, but I don't think it looks as good. So if I take I'm going to play around with this a little. If I take maybe that whole layer, and I move it a little so that they are there. What's that do to a shooter? All right, let's put them back. I'm going to put on the shooter also. Oop, no, turn them on so I can see them. Now I'm going to take all of them and move them just a little bit so we can see a little bit of this guy's leg. All right, I think, and what I think that gives us a better look there, where we can see a little bit of that guy's leg. It means I've got to redo some of these capturing or this blocking out, but I can do it all in white now. So I'll come over here, and I've got to turn off the alpha lock. Block like that. And I come over to our ATM pair. I gotta color out a bunch of stuff here, which wasn't there before because they lined up differently. Does she have any others? No, but she hasn't gained anything. All right, and we do the same thing over with our shooter. There's a whole bunch of new stuff that needs to get blocked out here. Probably gonna have to add in a little bit of more line work on his guns. I left that out. I don't know if you remember. It's 2 hours ago. I don't expect you to remember everything we did. But I didn't finish drawing the detail on his. The what's it? The bullets flying out of his guns. And now I'm probably going to need to add a little bit there. But now we've got a coloring book image. Oh, Chris Andrew, you know my DMing style so well. All right, so I'm going to come back up to that level. And we're going to use a smaller brush. There we go. Just need it to seem like his shots are going somewhere. All right, and I think that's it. So I'm going to come over to the ATM bottom line. And down there at the bottom, I'm going to put a stand. Because I think that we have ourselves a finished line drawing. Now, of course, I'm going to come back tomorrow in the morning and check it and maybe make some more tweaks. But there's the original. Here is the homage, all inked inked. It's done as a line drawing. We've dropped some solid whites in so that it becomes a coloring page. And as I say before, if you are a member of the free newsletter 50 years in the dungeon.substack.com or a member of my Patreon at patreon.com/Stanex, then you will, and I'm saying a free member at either one of those, then you next week will get a copy of a coloring book page that you can download and print out, or share onto your digital coloring device, and you have a coloring page all your own, because I like you guys so much. So here we go. God, 3 hours and 45 minutes. This has been a long one. I've had a very good time, though. I hope you did too. Thank you, everyone, for coming and hanging out with me. Of course, Michael and Chet and Chris, Andrew, who have been here a lot. Sean Smith, nice to meet you. Thank you for stopping by. Dreg, if you're still here, thank you. Nice to meet you, and thank you for stopping by. Lala, I know Lala's long gone, but I'm going to say thank you again to Lala for being here. And Dale Donovan. I'm sure there were other people that I'm not remembering right now, but that's because it's been almost 4 hours of doing this, and my brain's a little fried. So, yeah. Please, let's say, join one of the free things. Oh, while you're here, do me a favor if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up or a heart or a like, whatever it is for the platform you're watching on. And once we go to, I know you've all said so much in chat already, and I greatly appreciate it. But if you could, once I stop being live, when you get a chance, leave a comment in the comments. I ask for both the thumbs up, the like, and the comments, because those things help to get this channel shared with new people. And we get new friends like Dreg and Sean to come and join us and become part of the wonderful world of Stan. So yeah, thank you very much. Tomorrow night I'll be back for a much shorter show. It'll be Random Encounters, the improv cartooning show, where you will get to help decide what it is I'm drawing, and I'll draw it for all of our fun. So come on back tomorrow and do that. Next week, I don't know what I'll be doing here next week. I'll be doing something on Wednesday night. It'll be the Wednesday before Gen Con, so we'll come up with something. Those of us who are not going to be at Gen Con. Whew. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Take care now.